This is the Military Bottom Line Podcast, episode 55.
So the most important thing, and this is the key to dual military ship, right? You have to have a solid support system. And our support system is so awesome. It is absolutely ridiculous.
Welcome to the Military Bottom Line Podcast, where we learn from veterans and those currently serving how to make the most out of a military contract. We're here to motivate, inspire, and help you leverage your service to positively impact you professionally, personally, and financially during your military career and beyond. What's going on, everybody? Thanks again for tuning in this week. This week, I have a unique show with Dan and Corina Wynn. They are both active duty U.S. Army officers, and we talk about how the heck that life works out between deployments and kids and PCSing and moving and different commands. It's a incredibly dynamic situation where they're both trying to navigate their own careers, trying to figure out what's best for them as a family and what is required of them from the Army. So I think that their perspective, they've been doing this for a number of years now, and they're really on the same page together all the time. They're strategizing every move, every PCS, every program that they take advantage of. They're really, really killing it, both in the military and what they're doing out of the military. Dan is a co-host of the Military Cash Flow podcast with Mike Glatsby, who I had on a couple episodes back. And they're using the military to fund the future life that they want as they continue to invest in real estate, build businesses, and prepare for that retirement that they're both going to have an active duty retirement. So they're really thinking ahead, strategizing their programs used and their time in service. So definitely check out this episode all the way through, enjoy it, learn from them. And if the military couple thing is something that you guys are interested in and want kind of more advice on, definitely reach out to them. So enjoy. Good morning, Dan and Corina. How you guys doing?
Doing great.
Doing awesome, man. Doing awesome.
Awesome. So thankful for you guys to be joining me on this Sunday morning. I know you guys were up a little bit earlier than I was, but I'm stoked to be connecting with you guys and hearing your story this morning.
Absolutely.
Definitely, man. Thanks for allowing us to come on the podcast, man. We've been listening to the bottom line for a little while now and enjoy the different nuances that you bring and information you bring to other service members that are thinking about getting in, or even if they already are in, and there might be little tidbits of information that they pick up off of different episodes that they can apply to their lives. So I think it's great what you're doing, man. It's awesome.
Absolutely. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I'm excited to hear y'all's story. You guys are both active duty Army right now. Is that correct? So that brings a super unique perspective that I have not yet had on the show. And certainly that comes with some advantages and disadvantages, I'm sure. So I'd love to kind of hear how each one of you got, started in the Army and how you guys met and decided to do it together.
Yeah.
We'll let the geezers go first.
It's been a while. So I don't actually come from a military family, meaning like my dad or none of my parents or anything were in the military. I'll start it with my oldest sister who joined the military when she was 18 and kind of got all of her sisters to join. So I joined when I was 19. I had already done about a year and a half in college and wanting to pay for college since I had run out of money very quickly. I joined the reserves in order to kind of preserve that traditional college experience. So I went to basic in 2008. Then obviously I went to AIT and straight into a reserve unit and kind of back to college. I abruptly left college and went to Florida and moved to Orlando, where most of my family is located. And then I met Dan at the University of Central Florida in the ROTC program.
Cool. Okay. So it was in college that you guys met.
Yeah.
Both. And you guys were both in ROTC at that point?
When we met, yes. She has a very unique story because she actually left ROTC and then did some other things, and I guess we can definitely get into that. But we can, I guess we'll start at I'll tell my journey up to the point where we met, and then
Perfect.
we can kind of go from there. So I did come from a military background. My dad was in the Navy, retired out of the Navy. I spent most of my time on the East Coast, up and down the East Coast. We're living in Rhode Island, Norfolk, and mostly Jacksonville. We kept going back to Jacksonville, Florida. So I grew up on the post and everything like that. And that's how I was introduced to the military. However, I never planned to join the military. I always said I was going to be a businessman, and that's kind of what I wanted to do. Right. I went to college. I went to University of Central Florida. I went my first year, and I wrestled that first year. And then through doing that, not having any money. And, if you know anything about University of Central Florida, it's a very, very big party town, a big party school. Well, I partook in that a lot. So those 7 a.m. classes were not ideal for me. And I ended up dropping out after my first year. Oh, wow. So I dropped out, and I did the 9-to-5 grind for like 2 years, and realized that's not what I wanted to do. Throughout that process, I picked up that Rich Dad, Poor Dad book. And, he talked a lot about, passive income. And so I figured out a way to, what's the best way for me to do that and still make an income. And he talked about how he joined the Marines, right? So I went to the Navy recruiter to join the Navy like my dad, right? And the recruiter said, hey, go check out the ROTC program. Because even though I dropped out, I had good standing within. I still had good eligibility at UCF. So I went back. They didn't have Navy. I checked out Army. They were offering money, and here I am. So.
Gotcha. So you both joined primarily for the financial reasons of paying for school and kind of getting that head start, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Corina, I'm curious how people make the decision between the Guard and the reserves. What made you initially go reserves instead of Guard?
No one said anything about the Guard. Okay. So,
which is very common. I feel like that's a common answer.
Yeah, no one says anything. No one said anything to me about the Guard. It was I came in and I was like, my sister told me hey, because she was active duty. And I had I'm the youngest of four girls. Mm-hmm. And another older sister of mine had joined the reserves probably 6 or 7 years prior. And she was able to join the reserves and then go back to Florida State. And so that was kind of the route that I was looking to take. So I went in saying hey, this is exactly what I want to do. And they just kind of were like, okay, that's fine. It was 2008. So they didn't really care where I went, that they were able to sign me on. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's how I found myself in the reserves. And I think it was a very good accident. Because in meeting Dan, obviously we were traveling around, and it allowed me to transfer units pretty easily, which I think people don't really think of or think about when they go to the Guard. It's a little bit more. It's a little bit harder.
Sure.
Transfer. Yeah.
So, Corina, you were enlisted in the reserves first while going to school, and then Dan, you basically commissioned through the ROTC program, and that was your first experience in the military, was ROTC and then commission. And so where did what's the timeline of you guys both commissioning and going active duty? What year did that happen for you guys?
That's the fun part.
Yeah.
So when she joined ROTC the first semester, I was in my second year. Mm-hmm. And we started talking, we started dating, and then she immediately deployed. She immediately deployed, right?
Yeah.
I continued on with ROTC, and I ended up commissioning 2012. While she came back from deployment, and then she finished up school, and then she went to law school. I PCS'd in my first duty station. I did the Fort Benning schools and stuff like that. PCS in my first duty station was Fort Stewart, Georgia, where we're at again now. And then she wanted to go to law school. So she pursued that option.
So 2012, Dan commissions. 2014, I graduate from college and meet Dan at Fort Stewart. Not meet Dan, but we obviously are living together at Fort Stewart.
Sure.
And then I decide we have our first kid, right? We have our first kid.
On the side of the road.
On the side of the road.
Oh, man. You delivered a baby on the side of the road.
Yeah.
We just had our first kid and I can't imagine doing that. Unreal.
It was not on purpose, obviously.
Obviously, yeah. Nobody does that intentionally.
Yeah. So, So 2014, I graduate, we have a child. And then 2015 is when I start law school. Dan's still at Fort Stewart. Then I graduate, in 2017, I move up my graduation. I graduate early in order to meet timeline with him to go to
Fort Drum.
No, not
Fort South Carolina.
To go to Fort Jackson, South Carolina for his captain's career course.
Gotcha.
And then I actually don't take the bar. Oh, I take the bar a few times actually.
Okay. Didn't go well the first time?
Yeah, it didn't go well the first time, right? So I take the bar a couple of times and we get in there, right? We get in there. I get picked up for JAG. And then I actually commissioned in August of 2019. So
help me understand. So you did ROTC, graduated undergrad, but didn't take commission yet? And then did a separate program to go to law school?
I
all over the place.
I'm all over the place. So
hey, I feel like that all the time, so I can appreciate it.
So when I actually joined ROTC, I didn't actually contract because I was on active duty orders with my reserve unit. So I spent 12 years as a reservist, and about 6 years of that was active duty time.
So for deployments and such.
Only one deployment. The rest of the time was at my, I was at a 1-star command that required, a full-time staff without actually having a full-time staff. So they put a lot of people on active duty orders. So I had a super sweet gig as a full-time paralegal, also being able to go to school in Orlando. I could not have asked for a better situation.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I couldn't have asked for a better situation. So I did spend a lot of time in that unit. I spent about 7 years in that unit. And I was on active duty most of the time that I was in that unit. So I did a couple of years. I deployed, I came back. And when I came back from deployment, what I really wanted to do was just stop working full time at my unit and go ROTC and commission but once I got there, and I went to contract, they wanted, the PMS wanted me to take on a minor and extend my contract and graduate, I think it was a year or a year and a half later than what I really needed to. And I felt at the time that I was already very old. So I was 20, I think I was 24.
Okay.
At the time, and I was like, I have already spent so long in college. I cannot take a minor. I cannot stay any longer than absolutely necessary. So if I have to go to OCS, then that's what I'll do. So I ended up not contracting when I came back, and just went essentially as a night student, and worked full time at my reserve unit until I graduated.
Wow. Okay. Man. So, I mean, the question that I'm getting this, I'm sure a lot of people listening would get this too, is are you guys in the same location? It sounds a little scattered. So how much this time period were you actually together and or separated?
So I would say we spent most of the time together. I mean, the only time we were apart was one when she was deployed, right? But we weren't even married during that time. So we were dating when she came back, and to finish up school that time through, she came back in 2010, I think, 2011 through basically the end of 2012, we were together, in Orlando. And then I went off to I-Bullet, to Infantry Bullet. And at Fort Benning, she stayed back. It wouldn't really, even if she was there, we really wouldn't have been together because you're out in the field all the time. And then went to right after that, and then airborne school and all these other things. So, I was at Fort Benning. That time we were separated. And then I moved to Fort Stewart. In September. In September. And I think she joined me not too long. May. Yeah, not too long after that. And then we were at Fort Stewart for 4 years.
From 2013 to 2017.
Okay, so
4 years.
So 4 years, for 4.5 years or so, we were there together the entire time. Okay. So there was a few parts where we were separated, but it really wasn't. One, it wasn't by that far in distance, and then wasn't that long in time.
And the first kid didn't happen until you were both at Stewart?
Correct.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So that dynamic didn't, play out simultaneously. That would have made things pretty difficult.
Yeah, it definitely would have.
Yeah, the story is, is all over the place. So it's not a cookie cutter thing. And I think that the all audience, like definitely to your audiences, there's no one track, one perfect line trajectory into getting exactly where you want to. It's not always going to be that way. So if you're thinking you're too old, or you're thinking, if you're thinking you're too old, or you're thinking, you're not on timeline with your peers or whatever, don't let that stuff stop you, because you can always continue to push forward, right, and do great things and end up where you want to ultimately be at. Because in the grand scheme of life, man, like 1 year is just a blip.
Oh my goodness.
It's just a blip. So, okay, who cares? You take a back seat. I dropped out of school for 2 years, right? Who cares?
Was it hard going back to school after dropping out for 2 years? I mean, school is one of those things, like once you stop that momentum, going back is pretty miserable. So like, what was that like for you?
It wasn't very hard, actually, because although I was out of school, I was still in a school environment, right? So I stayed in Orlando when I dropped out. I dropped, and I was still living in a college, student apartment, right? So I had my own room and everything like that, but I was just making full-time paying student, $650 a month. I was like literally living, for the most part, like getting the feel of what a 9 to 5 would feel like, what it would be. That it wasn't very hard to go back to school, because most of my peers, everybody I talked to, are always talking, about the work that they're doing. It really wasn't that. It wasn't that much.
Gotcha.
It was that hard.
What did you do for a 9 to 5 during that period?
I worked for Cox Enterprises, better known. Well, I worked for autotrader.com at Cox Enterprises, right? So initially when I worked there, I don't know if you guys remember the Auto Trader magazines, like there's verbiage in there. I used to be the guy that type those and then take the picture and create the little, that.
That's so funny. I worked for a company under the Cox Enterprises. A similar auto marketing. It sucks. Great company. But the job was not for me. So I can understand and appreciate why you'd be like, all right, let's go back and figure out something else. So awesome.
Really the big push is they moved to Atlanta. They shut us down. So it kind of forced me to make a decision.
That helps too. All right. So how has the dynamic of being married, active duty, played out for you guys? Like, what did you have expectations going into this, that the Army was just going to be whimsically sending each one of you separately around the world, or what? I mean, how did you envision this playing out compared to how it has actually played out?
So first off, we are planners. Like we plan everything out. We've got spreadsheets. We've got 5 year plans that, just ridiculous. Right.
I like it.
And so myself, so I'm a JAG. Mm-hmm. My corps is pretty small, and our branch managers are separate from all the other branch managers. We try to make ourselves very special. I don't know why. So I already kind of knew, and being a paralegal, already being kind of in that JAG Corps family, and having a lot of contacts, I already knew that they are very family friendly, very willing to work with dual military. So I kind of knew, like, out the gate, we were probably going to be able to be stationed together at least. The issue that we're finding now, as we plan further and further ahead, is as we become field grade officers, our assignments become shorter and shorter. And because I'm in a very small branch, he's in a very small branch as a finance officer, there may not be locations where we can both be at the same time. But right now we're company grade officers. For me, JAG captains are a dime a dozen. And so I can pretty much go anywhere. Yeah,
it's flexible. So at this point, you guys have been in for, what year is it? 21. So like 10 plus years each.
I've been in for coming up on 9, and Corina's been in for a while.
14, she's almost 14. Yeah.
So with that dynamic of becoming field grade officers and shorter stints, and like, do you guys both envision finishing out the 20, or what's your thought moving forward?
Yeah, that's the plan right now. So again, going back to the planning thing, we're looking at our financial security and what it would look like as, both retiring, both getting half our BAH, both of us getting half our BAH, and then both of us likely getting disability. And then we're kind of broken.
We're already broken.
So and then what that looks like together, and then we're getting that for the rest of our lives, free dental, free healthcare, everything like that. So looking at what that would look like for us, we would truly be able to really retire in the conjunction with other things that we're doing on the side as well. It just it makes sense. So that's where we're at right now. The issue, as Corina kind of already talked about a little bit more, is as we continue to progress in rank, those positions that are available for those specific ranks, those higher ranks, they start to dwindle. So you might have, like, now I'm a finance officer. I was an infantry officer. I used to be in infantry, and then I transitioned over to being finance. Now that I'm a finance officer, you might have one finance 04 or 05 on an installation, right? So it starts to create an issue. Same thing with JAG as well. You might have one or two per installation. So now it comes, branch managers have to talk, coordinate. We have to talk, coordinate, and figure out how we're going to sync this together. And at some point we understand, well, we already understand that our careers will, as Corina likes to put it, ebb and flow, where it's a little give and take. So she might be in a key developmental position, like a very
like a trial counsel, right? That's pretty for JAGs, like being a litigation attorney or being a trial counsel, so to speak, will be an very position. A very important position, but also very very time consuming, very heavy, and so the things that we kind of think about are, all right, when am I going into a position that's really heavy? Then he probably needs to take a position that's pretty light, right?
Gotcha.
And so we will try our best to kind of ensure that our positions kind of ebb and flow, which is great because he's a few year groups ahead of me. Like I said, I commissioned in 2019 as a first lieutenant, and so I don't look at major until I think 2025 or 2026. Gotcha. And he's looking, he's looking at it here in the next year. Right. So that's helpful for us, I think.
Yeah. So you don't hit that mark at the same time where it's like both of you guys kind of get uprooted and have to not restart, but kind of like a significantly different category. So
exactly.
I remember when I was active duty, there was, like similarly dual military couples where they couldn't both be located on the same installation or same base. And so, they got placed in like one area. So I was in San Diego, and like one would work out of Miramar, one would work out of Pendleton, and they just find a place to live in the middle where they both commute, something a little bit longer than ideal, especially with that traffic out there. But there's flexibility in that too. Like, even if you're not at the same base, there's still this, similar location that could just end in longer commutes.
Yeah.
So, and
that's something that we've discussed as well. For us, I think that sweet spot would be probably DC. It's somewhere where I could probably be, for a while, and so could he.
Yeah, so there's major installations like for the Army, like Fort Bragg and Fort Hood and DC, that there's a lot of opportunity for different, so Fort Bragg, there's probably, 3 or 4 04s and there's probably more than that, but 04s and 05s. So you got different units there that offer that. So
what would you say is like the biggest advantage and disadvantage to being a dual military couple like this?
I think the biggest advantage for me, is that we each know each other's struggles. We each know what our day-to-day is like, right? sometimes you'll hear one of the common problems that I hear with other soldiers that are married to just civilians is, hey, my wife doesn't understand what we're doing here. She thinks I'm not doing anything, or something along those lines. Or it could be the other way around too, where I don't know what my wife does all day. She doesn't do anything at all, all day while I'm sitting here doing this. Right. Yeah. Well, we know exactly what we're both doing. We both know the lingo, the terminology, I can say things and she understands. Right. So, it just that communication opens up a little bit more, and we're able to communicate a little bit more effectively because we understand each other's struggle, and we're both in it together. Being at the same unit as well is a huge advantage because being military in general, dude, you get so many days off a month. You get 3 day or a 4 day off a month. It's, both of us now have that time off. Whereas as she was a civilian, those 4 days or that block leave period or it'd be hard for me to sync that up with her civilian career, or vice versa. It would be hard for me to sync that up if I was a civilian with her military time off. But now we're both together, so it's fairly easy that we both get those times off at the same time, so we can enjoy that time with our family. So
I think career wise, for me being an attorney, being in the military with Dan is just so much easier than having Dan in the military and then me trying to be an attorney on the side in the civilian sector.
Sure.
Because obviously every place that we go, I've got to get licensed in that state or in that jurisdiction.
Pass the bar.
I have to. I've got to get licensed.
For every state, you'd have to pass the bar.
Exactly. And so it would be so much harder for me to do that as we're moving here and there. But he transfers, I transfer, right? It just it's a lot. It makes it a lot easier. I think both on the both of us, but also career wise, right? It allows me to establish a longevity, right? In one career, right? So
that's a really good point. You guys mentioned a couple of things. So one, I want to ask, so you're at the same unit right now. How does that work? Wait, sort of. Dan's saying yes. Corina's kind of shaking her head.
Same installation. Same division.
Okay.
Different actual units. I say that there's a difference because we were actually in the same brigade. We actually deployed last year together.
I was going to ask that, what happened? If you're in the same unit and you can deploy at the same time, how does that work with the kids? I mean, if you're gone for months or a year plus.
So the most important thing, and this is the key to dual military ship, right? You have to have a solid support system. And our support system is so awesome. It is absolutely ridiculous. So not only does she has 3 sisters and three sisters. She has 3 sisters, and all of them are somewhat military affiliated. 2 of them are dual military couples. 1 was married to another service member. Everybody knows the situation. We all know, what we go through. So it's easy to this sounds bad, but not pass our kids off, but
leave our kids. It's okay for us to leave our kids with them. Yes.
It's kind of the village will raise the children. So we're on with her sisters, at least we're the youngest. So the other siblings, when they've been dual military and they've deployed at the same time, they usually pass them off to one of the other elder the elder children. Yeah. So we haven't had to take any kids, and their kids are older anyway. So we just haven't had to do with that yet. But our kids are so young, we've been able to hand them off to her sisters, and then also my parents. Again, my dad knows this. He knows the drill, man. He was in the military. He's deployed a bunch of times, right? And we can pass them off to my parents. My dad is retired, so he's just chilling. He's just chilling. So and they love spending time with their grandkids. I know that they're safe. I know that they're continuing to get a great education, right? Yeah. And they know we're able to just finagle that, right? So have that rock solid support system. That is key. Without that, there's no way
we'd be able to do this.
Either,
right?
I likely would not be in the military if we did not have a solid support system. So
how long have you had to, what's the longest you've had to pass the kids off or hand them off?
6 months.
6 months.
Yeah. So last year we went to Poland and Germany with our brigade, and I left. It was a disaster because he was PCSing to Fort Stewart while I was at Fort Stewart getting ready to leave. COVID hit. He was stuck. Oh, it was an absolute mess. Yeah. But yeah, we were able to leave our kids with his parents
for half that time.
Not half that time, the whole time.
Okay. Well, yeah, never mind. All right. Yeah.
So how do the kids handle that? I mean, to lose both parents for 6 months as young kids, like, how old are your kids now? Do they understand that? I mean, how do they react?
Yeah, so they're 5 and 6, and like me speaking to it because I literally lived. I didn't live through both of my parents leaving, but I mean, my dad was gone a lot, right? I don't know how much it. I just don't think that it affects them negatively as much. Of course, you want to have a presence in your children's life. Now, we were lucky in the sense that we had Wi-Fi, we had everything. So we were talking literally every single day video. It wasn't like when I was a kid, my dad would have to pick up the phone call whenever would have to pick up the phone from a payphone. You guys remember those whenever he could, and we'd have to, talk on the home phone. You'd only talk for maybe 15 minutes or something like that. Now you got video. There's so much technology, so many ways to reach out and talk to people at any given time during the day. So I don't think we were missed. I'm not gonna say missed. I don't think it was as huge of an effect as it possibly would have been had this happened 15 years ago, right? During the technology like we had 15 or 20 years ago, right? So I think they were good, and then they were with grandparents the whole entire time. So it wasn't even like they got to play with their cousins and things like that. So I don't think that it was a
I'll
major,
be honest, I don't think we were missed.
Well, that's probably maybe a good thing, maybe a bad thing.
No, I mean, they're just like Dan said, they're just so resilient, and I think especially because it's not like we're sending them across the country to grandparents that they only see maybe once a year.
Sure.
We are in very close proximity to his parents, and we're still in pretty close proximity to my sister.
Okay.
Both my sisters and my mom, actually. And because they get to see their cousins and their aunts and their uncles very very often, it just felt like another trip, I think, to them. Nice. But this time they had to go to school. So
yeah. I'm also curious, when you said you together went to Poland, Germany, unfortunately, like during COVID, so that probably took away some of the fun. But how did that play out? Because I know people look forward to the deployments at times, like to, I don't want to say get away from the family, but like change it up. They go hang out with the boys or girls or whatever they're doing. Being deployed together, was that I'm gonna put you on the spot. Was that a good thing or a bad thing? Like, did you want to hang out with the guys or hang out with the girls, or did you find opportunity to go explore together? Like, how?
Well, while I was in the field, he left for 6 weeks and got to hang out in Wiesbaden and do fun things while I got to go to the rainy, cold field. No
resentment there, I'm sure.
Yeah, not at all, right? He did tell me I picked this life, so there's that. But no. It actually was really, really fun. For me, at least. I don't know about you, but I had a great time. Not only just like deploying, right? Because it's always fun to kind of get out of the house and have an environment. But being able to actually see him in action and see him as the officer that other people see him as. I only see him as Dan, right? Like the guy that I live with. But actually being able, because we were actually on the same staff. So we reported to the same commander and we were on the same very small staff.
I was the S8 and she was the BJ.
Yeah. So watching him brief, for me at least, was pretty cool because I had never seen him kind of in that space. So
cool. Cool.
That was pretty cool. I mean, I thought it was a pretty sweet. We lucked out. I mean, we just a lot of the stuff that's happened to us so far. It's been a lot of like, us like willing into existence, right? But it's ended up working out. So, for example, a lot of dual military couples, if they deploy together, they don't get to see each other every day. They definitely don't get to live together. They definitely don't get to be on the same staff, But we got to do all three. So we were literally living together. We were literally seeing each other every single day. We wake up, go work out together if we want to, go do laundry together, stuff like that. And then on top of that, we're on the same staff. So again, we knew exactly what we were dealing with, right? So we got to share those same experiences and go through something together, which was absolutely amazing. I couldn't ask for a better situation.
Yeah,
that brings up an interesting question, because like everybody's experience in the military varies, obviously, and it sounds like you guys have had awesome experiences thus far. Do you feel like that is because of luck or because of your own adaptability and, I don't know, personality?
I think it's a combination.
Okay. So there's luck involved.
Yeah, I think so. I think that if you go in with the right mindset with the mindset that you're going to adapt to kind of your environment, you can adapt to the people around you, right? And the type of leadership that you have, to a certain point, right? You're not going to change who you are. But if you've got that ability to adapt, I think it makes things a lot easier and a lot more enjoyable. I for one love my job, right? Like I can't get enough of it. So there's that.
Nice. Not many people can say that, so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, sometimes it was a little annoying trying to peel her away from the desk, but it was just me and her. That big of a deal. I'm like, hey, I'm trying to watch The Office. Let's. It's about that time. I'm trying to grill something. It's about that time. Well, you got to do this little extra work. But yeah, I think that it was. It's definitely a combination of both. But I do think that there's a lot more us willing things into place than luck, to be honest. So we, again, going back to us being planners, we are heavy planners, right? And it's necessary because of the way that our lifestyle, right? We have to plan as much ahead as possible. And then you start to put yourself in situations that can help your plans come to fruition. For example, I should have been at Fort. I shouldn't even been on that deployment, and she actually probably shouldn't have been at Second Brigade. That should have never really happened. Had we just not planned and just let it go, we probably might be in Korea right now, right? So the reason that happened is because I wrote the brigade commander here. And I talked with my former brigade commander. I was stationed at Fort Drum, New York. I talked to my former brigade commander, and I was in command at that time. And I was like, hey, Second Brigade down at 3rd ID is about to come up on deployment. My wife's there right now. We have an opportunity to do this. This is how I foresee this going. I would like your support in doing this, right? Got that support, and then emailed brigade commander down here. Hey, I've been to this unit. I know a lot about this unit. I'd be excited to come and work for you. Here's my resume, essentially. I would love to come and work for you. Got a great, email. I got a great response on that end. And now you have both sides kind of helping make your plan come to fruition, right? And then on the Corina side,
on this side, I know that there is an opening for a JAG to go with this brigade. But I also know that there are 2 upcoming deployments. So there's a deployment to Poland, and then there's a deployment to Korea, then there's a deployment to Kuwait that are also coming up. And my thought process was, if I don't ask for this deployment to Poland that my husband is going to go on, I'm probably going to go either to Korea or Kuwait. And those timelines don't match up, right? Yeah.
And that was another huge piece that I think a lot of other dual military couples, if you decide to do this, or if you're planning, maybe your wife's thinking about coming in, is that deployment cycle. So one of our sisters, right? They're dual military as well. They were stationed here. And unfortunately, at one point, they got on different deployment cycles. One was gone, one was back, one was gone, back. Yeah. So we saw this opportunity like, hey, we got to make this work. Wow. We got to make this happen so that we can stay on the same deployment cycle so that we don't get deployed. So we don't have this happen. Right.
Yeah.
like that's what I mean by willing it. But obviously there's some luck that comes into play with it as well, because you got to have that buy-in from both sides, and from all, from four sides, really. Like, I mean, her commander, my previous commander, and then branch managers, like all have to be in coordinating, but it's up to you to make that happen. Right. And to will that into existence.
Yeah, dude, I love it. I mean, so many people miss out on the opportunity to like really strategize their military career, and like they think, I'm surely all of that took a lot of work to make it happen, but the other side of that coin is like being on the flip-flop deployment schedule. That's going to be a lot of work. That's going to be a lot of stress. It's like, well, which would you prefer? Work now and stress now, or work and stress later when you're not together? So like the opportunity to strategize your military career, and I don't want to say like, because it's not being selfish with it. You're still putting the mission first. You're still filling those needs that are needed in the Army. And it's just kind of mutually beneficial at that point.
Yeah. And that's that. I mean, I think that I don't know about your commanders, but I know that my boss saw that, was like, okay, well, you're right. There is an opening. Like, it makes sense for you to go instead of these other two, people that I'm thinking about.
Mm-hmm. So they're really willing to work with you and your family needs, as long as it's not leaving a hole in a deployment. And I mean, they're willing to work with you. That's awesome.
One thing I will say about the military is that there's a new mission being pushed right now. It's called People First, right? And if you're in the Army, I know you've heard of it, heard about it, and like there are a lot of people are really, really taking that seriously. I've been fortunate to work with most of the commanders I've worked with so far have legitimately taken that on and been charged with that and actually live that, right? Like our commander, he like literally lives that people first, and he really means that, right? Of course, the mission's first for sure. But if I can help someone out while still maintaining the mission, then that's what I'm going to do, right? It just makes for a more productive environment. If you think about it, would you rather have somebody that's miserable, like trying to do a mission for you or trying to complete a task for you, or would you rather have someone happy and grateful that you allowed them to come to a certain location and complete these tasks, right? You're probably going to get a different level of work or a different type of work out of one individual over the other. So
yeah. I think that, I mean, obviously it's a work in progress, both in the civilian world and military world, to put people first. But I think now, like with internet, with all these opportunities very obvious to people, there's always, like, people can leave. They can find something else. Like if they're not being treated well, or if the opportunities they want aren't there, then they can leave and go somewhere else. So people, I feel like that, you have to ensure a level of satisfaction and like comfort and enjoyment in what you're doing. And if you're not putting the people first, they're going to leave, or they're going to do a crappy job, until they leave, kind of thing.
You're 100%, like everything that we're talking about right now is easily translatable over to the civilian sector. I mean, I dropped out for 2 years. I worked a 9-to-5 gig. You're going to deal with bullcrap wherever you go.
Oh yeah.
Literally. It doesn't matter if you're in the military. Yeah, there's some bullcrap in there, and you have less of an ability to say, all right, I quit. Like, you can't just, I quit and I'm done. It's going to really, really affect you. Whereas civilian sector, you can. But either way, you're going to need to, for most people you need some kind of income, right? And you're either going to have to take the bull crap from the civilian sector, or you're going to take some bull crap from the military. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, man, I would never do that because you deal with so much crap in the military. And I hear that often too. Like, you deal with so much bull crap in the military, which is true. Just understand the grass is not always greener on the other side.
Yeah. I actually left. When I was in the reserves, I worked for Merrill Lynch for a little while, and I was just so amazed at just how much they micromanaged you, and the requirements to just like stay in your little cubicle, and like I didn't have the autonomy that I had even as like a specialist, right? Like, I had more autonomy as a specialist than I did as this like entry level degree holding, finance person, right?
Yeah.
And I just like, I was like, nope, can't do this. I was like, this is terrible. And so I think Dan's right. Like, I think a lot of people do think the grass is greener on the other side, especially for, at least I noticed it a lot out of my soldiers who came in right out of high school and have never had a real job, right? Like they had a job in high school, but like an actual real job. They think the grass is greener on the other side. 100%. And then, they ETS, they get out and then they realize that that's not the case.
Not always.
Not always, right? Yeah. Not always.
Yeah. So. And I've had that conversation before in here. Like, perspective is helpful no matter where it aligns. And so if you had the perspective of being in the military before starting a civilian career, like that'll benefit you. But if you have worked the 9-to-5 life before the military, you might realize like, wow, the military ain't that bad. Let me just stay here because this is way better than the life I was living, even though there's going to be crap you got to deal with. And life is basically like mostly dealing with crap you don't want to deal with, So that's the reality of it. And it comes down to the attitude, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So what is next for you guys? I mean, do you know, are you guys at Stewart for the foreseeable future or?
We've been planning for about a year now, man. So
no. Yeah. So I think the plan is to leave next summer.
Okay.
Yes. That's the plan. The what we don't know yet is where we're going. We know where we want to go. And so I think this summer is about the time for us to start putting things in motion to kind of get there. But next up is going to grad school.
Cool. Okay. So like an Army, like war college kind of thing, or what does that look like?
So there's some of the advantages, of being in the military. They have this this thing called the graduates
service,
something like that. But basically, it's this grad school option, right? And what you do is you get to go to school for up to 2 years and get a degree in whatever you choose, right? There's a list, but it's pretty much any degree that you want to. And while you're going to school, your whole job is literally just to focus on school.
Any school you want.
Any school I want to. It's completely paid, and I continue to get paid as you tend to get paid at your rank, right? So you get paid the entire time, and your whole job literally is just to graduate, to focus on school and to graduate. Now you incur an additional service obligation after that, but if you're planning to make it a career anyways, who cares? And then you get that 2 years off to do something to hopefully get a degree in something that you find interesting. At the same time, we're just marrying that with her next duty assignment. So basically, trying to get to the next duty assignment, we're trying to get to Fort Bragg. We'll start really pushing hard for that over the next 6 months or so. Start writing people and doing things like that. But so we get to Fort Bragg, we'll stay there for a lot longer. She's there, she has plenty of opportunity there, and then I go to grad school in the surrounding area. Link up with my buddy Mike. Got a lot of friends there, and then also. Once I get done with grad school, I can then go back to Fort Bragg, which is right there, right? So that's the plan right now in a nutshell, and we'll see.
So again, like strategizing. It's like, all right, so we want to end up at Bragg. Dan, you're going to do this grad program, but the more important thing is to get Corina stationed in the Bragg area, and then you'll find your school.
That's what it's going to be based off. It's going to be based off of where she gets stationed, where we go to school at. But again, because she talks to her branch manager. They have a very, very tight knit community. Their core is very, very small. They typically have a lot of influence over where they want to go. If it's available, it's there. And there's no shortage of JAG officers at Fort Bragg. They got a bunch of different units. So I don't think that's going to be a very hard thing to do. And if that happens, then the rest of the things start to align and get put into place.
Do you find that from the Army's perspective that they pull one of you more than the other? Like, when it comes time to moving you guys, does Dan's job pull him more than Corina's job? Or, I mean, does it not really matter because you're always strategizing and trying to figure out where you guys want to go and what's going to work for you?
So we got the strategy, and honestly, so my core's small as well. And I'm not going to knock anything bad about like, my branch managers or anything like that. But I think we have a more, I'd say a 95% chance of going where we want to if she leads the way. So if we get with her branch manager and like, hey, can we get stationed in Timbuktu? Once she's there, because we have the military Army couples program, right? My branch is going to try to make sure I get stationed with her. I'm going to be like kind of priority. So if we lead with her where we have a 95% chance of going where we want to go, then that pretty much means I'm likely going to be able to go, where I want to go. So
nice.
Yeah, she's the driver. She's the driving force.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So you guys both joined primarily for the financial reasons. Do you feel like you've gotten what you joined for?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think so. When I joined, I was double majoring in mechanical engineering and kinesiology. I wanted to go like be a whatever. I don't know.
I get it.
And coming in, it was not just the financial. It was definitely the financial reasons why I went in. But why I stayed was the job. It was I enlisted as a paralegal. It was a job that I just picked because I was like, well, this is way different than like my schooling where I'm just doing math all the time. But I ended up like really loving it, like so much so that I was like, hey, attorneys, you guys aren't doing it as well as I think I could do it. So I'm going to go to law school and do this. So it's just something that I've turned into a career because I just love it.
Awesome.
I think we've definitely gotten what we wanted out to. Again, on the back end, or on the front end, excuse me. I originally went into enlist, right? Because I didn't know anything about officership. My dad didn't. You would think that, my dad would be like, hey, you've already started to go to college. You might as well finish it out, go be an officer. And I'm not saying there's one's better than the other, officer enlisted, but there's definitely a there are definitely differences between the two, right? So when it comes to like purely financial reasons, we've gotten what we wanted to for the most part. Now being dual military and making twice the pay is essentially we're able to take and fulfill what my original goal was in joining the military was to eventually be a businessman, right? So we're getting to that point where we're taking a lot of our earned income and putting into more passive investments. So.
Gotcha. What kind of passive investments are you? Because it seems like everything you guys do are, it's as a team. You guys are super, on the ball together and focused on everything together. So, what are the passive investments that you guys as a team are working on that other couples, could similarly be pursuing?
Real estate.
Yeah.
That's our thing in building platforms off of real estate, right? I think that are one of the things that I noticed, not just with my parents, because again, my dad retired out of the military, but a lot of service members that I've run into so far, they're not taking advantage of their VA loans. And they are putting themselves in a situation to be like most of America. You're one paycheck away from being broke, right? If you don't get paid, if you don't get paid that next paycheck, you're being broke. There's not a lot of financial literacy in the military spectrum, right? We don't teach finances a lot in the military. We don't talk about it at all, which is a shame because that's the number one reason for divorce. That's the number one reason for, mental health. It's not the number one reason, but it's something that can lead to, stressors, mental health issues, right?
Yeah.
So I would say that one thing that I want to see more military members, not just couples, do more is just become more financially literate. And the way we've been kind of exercising that is by building a platform, talking to other service members about it, and then also living it ourselves and buying investment properties and doing those things, right? So that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, I know. We're kind of fighting the same fight in that sense with your military cash flow podcast. There's such an opportunity within the military for young service members to really get ahead and use the benefits, use the time, and that early earning that most other 18, 19-year-olds don't have to really get ahead. And so I know we're we're on the same page with that. And military cash flow podcast is an incredible resource for all service members, really. So
thanks. And you're a perfect example of it, man. Like, I mean, I know you've come on our podcast, you've been a guest on our podcast and talked about your experience with, duplex and how you're navigating that and how you're starting to build wealth and how you've been building wealth. And that's amazing. The person that we interviewed this morning was a former soldier of mine who who just introduced all my soldiers. When I was in command, I gave classes on like financial literacy classes. I talked about the VA loan. Well, a few of the soldiers legitimately took that and they ran with it. So,
nice.
So we just interviewed this morning has 2 duplexes. She was living before she PCS, was living rent free, pocketing her BH and cash flowing, all off of just a VA loan, all off of using a VA loan one time. And now she has 2 duplexes. She's cash flowing over $2,000 a month.
Unreal.
That's a game changer.
Yeah,
E5.
it is.
E5. Yeah. That's a game changer. Well, now an E6, but that's a game changer. You know what I mean? So this is the stuff that we like to push out. And these are the things, these are passion projects that we're working on together at the same time, building our legacy, right? We talk about planning and how we're really big planners. Well, it's not just for the 1 year. We're talking about 60 years, 100 years. We're trying to plan for the future, not just my kids, but kids, you know what I mean? So that's kind of that's what life's all about, right? Trying to leave it a better place or set your family up for a better, and people around you, set your people up for better situations to come. So
yeah, I love it, man. Awesome. Well, I won't take any more of your time, y'all's morning. Just a couple closing questions to wrap it up. Is the dual military life something that you guys would recommend or encourage others to do?
Only if they have a very strong support system.
Okay.
If not, it becomes extremely hard and probably
not doable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. It really depends on what your goals are and what you want to get, what you want to do out of life. I mean, everybody's not willing to separate from their kids for 6 months or just the military life in general, right? Not willing to do that. Now you add that, times that by 2, where both of the parents are doing the same thing. So everyone's not willing to do that. And that might create major stressors on certain couples if you're not in the right mental space, right? So I would recommend it if that aligns with your goals, right? And you can definitely make it work. But if not, and you don't have the right support system there with you, I would not recommend it. So,
good advice. Awesome. Well, thanks guys so much for coming on. For those listening, where can they find more about you guys and what you're doing, and maybe connect with you?
You can find I'm on IG, Facebook, and everything like that. Dan Wynn, REI. And then obviously we had the Military Cash Flow podcast, which Jason has been a part of as well. He's been a guest. Make sure you check out this episode. It's probably going to come out here in a couple of weeks. So, so definitely check that one out. And just militarycashflow.com. That's where we're at. We're helping service members build wealth and create cash flow through real estate. And that's pretty much it for me.
Yeah. You can find me on IG at Corina Wynn. Also on Facebook, facebook.com/Corina Wynn. That's it.
If you have any questions about the dual military, like how it works, how to manage time, how to manage family, like what the everything looks like, because a lot of people ask questions about how the pay works, especially when it comes to BH and stuff like that. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and we'll be happy to answer those questions for you.
Awesome. Or if you're thinking about becoming a JAG.
Perfect. I honestly, I feel like I might have to have you guys both on the show separately. Like I could have kept on going and figuring out your stories a little bit more, because you guys are taking advantage of awesome programs and like getting it all done while time in service, completely paid for. So yeah, don't be surprised if you guys are on here individually and sharing your story, because
absolutely,
I love it. Awesome, guys. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Really enjoyed hearing your stories and look forward to diving in more in the future.
Great times, man. Hey, it was good times.
Thanks for having us.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode with Dan and Corina. Super inspiring. I love how strategically they think of their military career and really drive it where they want it. It's inspiring and pretty awesome. And I think everybody should be strategizing their military career. That's what it's about. And so if you guys want more information on them, definitely check out the Military Cash Flow podcast. Check out Dan Wynn, check out Corina Wynn on Instagram, and reach out to them if you have any questions. So I'll see you guys next week.